Hey guys, Dan here. Today we're having a look at the VRS DFP Pro Pedals. This is the first pedal set by VRS, and short spoiler beforehand, wow, what an entry into the pedal market. Again, for transparency reasons, I want to mention that these pedals were actually provided by VRS for a review, but VRS has absolutely no influence on the video. They will not see the video before the release. And as always, all my opinions are my own. Looking at the pedals, we find a pretty standard pedal set, and I don't mean that in any negative way. There's the Throttle and Brake 2 pedal set for 549 euros, and you can additionally buy a clutch for 199 euros. There will also be a damper kit available, but at the point of making this review it was not available yet, so I didn't get a chance to test it out. VRS is a driving school for iRacing that recently got into making affordable but very good gear. The DFP Pro direct drive base is probably my favorite wheelbase. Only reason I use the SimCube 2 Pro at the moment is because of the SimCube wireless wheels that I'm using. With their products, you kind of feel that these are developed by sim racers for sim racers. I feel like where other companies maybe focus a little bit too much on what does a real car use, VRS just tries to deliver the best performance for sim racing. I mean, if it's good enough for Josh Rogers, probably the quickest sim racer in the world right now, it should be good enough for everybody. The build quality of the pedal set is very good. The pedals itself are made out of FEA optimized laser cut stainless steel. FEA stands for Finite Element Analysis and is a simulation process during development where you can simulate what a part is doing under specific load conditions, for example. I don't really want to get into detail here, but if you ever played Bridge Constructor, it is kind of similar to that. I honestly couldn't find any manufacturing flaws on my unit. There are no ridges or sharp edges anywhere. I'm personally not a big fan of the look of laser cut steel, definitely prefer the CNC'd aluminum, but those pedals look decent in my opinion. The pedals itself have absolutely zero play, there's like nothing. I guess the use of bearings instead of bushings definitely helps with that. I was trying hard to find anything to criticize in terms of build quality, but honestly I simply couldn't. VRS did a very good job here. I did read a few cases of some manufacturing errors where some parts were mounted wrong on the VRS support Discord, but that apparently also was resolved quickly. In general, the support seems to be very good from what I read there. Luckily, I didn't have to try it out myself yet. The electronics are done very nicely. It's a little black box. VRS uses an STM32 processor in here, and they don't rely on the internal ADC. They actually use a 24-bit external ADC from analog devices to get a better performance and higher quality load cell readout. The pedals are connected via an Ethernet plug. Order doesn't matter, which pedal is which gets determined in the calibration process in the software. The PCB itself looks good and is housed in a custom fully shielded metal case. I did not have any grounding or EMI issues with these pedals, so all good. But let's talk about the specs of these pedals. All pedals allow an overall tilt angle of more than 20 degrees plus customization of the pedal face of more than 30 degrees, 20 mm depth adjustment and 30 mm of vertical adjustment. So if you cannot make these pedals work on your rig, the problem is probably not the pedal, but somewhere else. If you want to see more about this, I can recommend the video by David Williams that shows you all the adjustability of the pedals. The throttle pedal works with a load cell as any pedal on this set. You can have a maximum pedal force of around 8.4 kilograms. I like to run this configuration as I really like heavy inputs on the pedals in general. The throw is of course adjustable. I left it in the default position for me with the load cell in the highest position and slightly higher preload on the spring. But yeah, oh my god, the spring! This is probably like the feature that has been discussed the most prior to release of these pedals. The spring is not perfectly straight when in idle position. Interestingly, every sim racer on the internet is actually also a mechanical engineer and therefore knows that this cannot work and probably will break within 3 days of use, right? But honestly, I've used these pedals quite extensively, and even though about 2 months of use definitely will not show the effects of wear, I would be pretty confident that this is absolutely no issue, and even in the rare case of failure, it takes no time to replace the spring. In the more critical compressed position, like when you put it like this, the spring is actually relatively straight. I also asked my dad about this, who is actually a mechanical engineer and has been designing spring testing machines for the last 30 years or so. To quote him, I absolutely see no issue with this design. So yeah, in the end, I'm only another person on the internet that tells you this will be fine, so yeah. The plus on this design is there's really very minimal friction on the throttle pedal. While this might not be super realistic, I actually like the quick response you can get from these pedals, to be honest. And if you're not a fan, you can always just add the damper kit for a more dulled out feel and response. But let's move on to the brake, probably the most interesting pedal in the pedal set. The brake comes with 2 springs, a weaker blue spring and a stronger red spring. Do yourself a favor and remove the blue spring and just put it directly in the bin. Honestly, I don't know why VRS is shipping the pedals in this configuration, but I personally think the blue spring is way too weak. So yeah, prepare to damage your fingers a little bit and put in the red spring. Maybe I'm just a little bit too incapable, but it took me quite a few minutes to exchange the springs and my fingers hurt afterwards. So yeah, I also did that live on stream, so that probably didn't help. But yeah, red spring is in and the brake is just awesome, to be honest. You have a wide range of adjustability on the brake as well. A load cell of 200 kilograms, which gives you a maximum pedal force of around 140 kilograms. This should be enough for most sim racers, I guess. I definitely struggle to max out these pedals. With a tie rod on these pedals, you can actually adjust the pedal response curve and basically reduce the treble. Again, if you're looking on more information on how to adjust the pedals, I recommend the video from VRS. I will put the link in the description. Okay, the last pedal that you can buy as an option is the clutch. I don't have it here on the desk, but I have it on the rig. Again, it uses a load cell and has a wide range of adjustability. I left mine at pretty much stock since I don't really use the clutch a lot. You can adjust the pedal to have a pedal force of over 30 kilograms. There's a bite point simulation, and to me it feels pretty realistic, but then again, I have never really driven a race car, so I don't know if it's accurate or not, so yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Okay, let's have a quick look at the VRS software. The DFP base and pedals actually use the same software, and VRS is doing a great job at hiding the firmware update in their Discord server, so make sure to join their Discord. If you're not on the server, you pretty much won't notice that there's a firmware update, so I think the communication could be a little bit better here, but anyways. I said it before in my DFP base review, the software kind of looks a little bit nostalgic, but it works just fine. You do the calibration here, make sure you actually read the instructions when you do the calibration. I've talked to more than 2 people who had issues with the pedals because they did what they felt was appropriate in the calibration and not what the software was actually asking for, but yeah. You can also adjust the dead zone on the low and high end, adjust the maximum pedal pressure needed to reach 100% output, and also you can do a rudimentary 5-point pedal curve adjustment. I don't really know if it just puts a linear fit through the 5 points or does some sort of exponential or polyfit, but to be honest, I think it's probably negligible. I personally just run a linear pedal curve on all my pedals and adjust 100% on the brake so I can barely reach it. In theory, you can also limit the maximum output the brake generates in the software to make your life a little bit easier in GT3 cars where you don't want to trigger the ABS, or cars like the Cup Porsche, for example. I don't really recommend that on high-end pedals like these though. Better to train your muscle memory and just calibrate the pedals in a way that it takes a little bit more pressure than what you feel is comfortable to max out the brake. The pedals also feature some profiles, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they are actually stored on the pedal controller box itself. At least I did a complete reinstall of my Windows machine the other day, and the profiles are still here. Even though the software looks like a standard app from Windows 3.1, it works just fine and it covers every feature that I can think of that a pedal software would need. Maybe an integration with iRacing would be cool that automatically selects a specific profile per car, but yeah, I only use one profile anyway, so for me it's probably, yeah, it won't make a difference. Alright, enough talking about specs and software, let's get on the track and I tell you a little bit about my experience with the pedals. We are in the Porsche GT3R, around the best track in the world. If you've been following the channel, you know which one this is. Road Atlanta. I've been using these pedals for approximately 2 months on every stream and I really like them a lot. The throttle is super smooth. I think just using the spring without any other supporting rod is really a good idea here. And you get an insanely nice response from the pedal, and the pressure needed to modulate the pedal feels very good to me in the default position, so I didn't really bother changing this around a lot. Only thing I adjusted on the throttle was the angle to make it a little bit more comfortable in my rig. The brake can take a ton of pressure. I don't think anybody will have issues with the brake being too weak. I like to run my brake at a really high braking pressure. I typically set it up in a way that I can barely reach the 100% inputs for some panic braking scenarios. I mainly drive iRacing, and in this game you rarely need the 100%. For ACC, for example, I run a little lower brake force by increasing the dead zone on the high side to about 20% in-game. Play around with the settings here. I know some aliens that run brake pressures at around 30 kilograms or even less. It's just a super personal thing. What I also did on the brake is replace the default spring, which is super soft, with a stronger red spring. I also changed the preload a little bit to my liking to get less pedal travel, and then also adjusted the angle of the pedal to suit my driving position in the rig. When driving with a set of pedals, I always wondered why the brake kind of feels a little bit different to other pedals. With the conventional elastomer load cell pedals, it always kind of feels a little bit like pushing a brick with your feet while braking, unless you run softer elastomers, which I personally don't like. Also, elastomers seem less smooth in the pedal force to pedal travel curve. To me, it always felt more like a braking in stages. It's kinda hard to describe. The VRS pedals feel different in this regard, and only by recently trying out the Racework S1 pedals, by the way, excellent pedals, I realized why the pedals feel different. They are, in my opinion, much closer to the feel of a hydraulic pedal, minus the damping a hydraulic pedal gives you. That actually makes me wonder if adding the damper set would bring it even closer to that feeling. I definitely need to try that out. But anyways, I think this is probably the best brake that I have used so far. As with everything, it really is subjective and a lot of personal preference. But I like the way this pedal feels a lot. Trail braking and threshold braking is much easier for me compared to most elastomer based pedals. And also the elastomers where I think the springs will work much slower. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about the clutch. There's definitely a nice bite point that you can feel while operating the clutch, but to be honest, I feel like I'm not the most qualified person when talking about the clutch. My heel and toe game definitely needs some improvement, and typically the only case where I use the clutch is when I try to recover from a spin, so never. Yeah. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the competition of these pedals. The 2-pedal set is actually priced a little bit lower than the Heusingerveld Sprints. The 3-pedal set is slightly above the Sprints. Naturally, people will compare the VRS pedals to the Sprints, but I actually think the main rival is probably more like the Ultimate Plus pedal set here. In terms of build quality, the VRS are slightly superior in my opinion. While I notice some lateral play on my Ultimate Plus, there's absolutely zero on the VRS pedals. Both pedal sets feature a 200 kg load cell where the strength in your leg is probably the limiting factor and not the brake pedal itself. The Ultimate pedals use rubber elastomers, the VRS uses the spring. Which one you prefer it's just personal preference. I kind of change my mind on that every day, which one I like better. But as of today, I prefer the spring-loaded pedals. In my opinion, the VRS pedals just have a little more hydraulic feel compared to the rubber elastomer brakes, but again, your mileage may vary. I don't want to say it's better or worse, it's just different. If I had to choose between the Ultimates and the DFP Pro pedals, I would pick the VRS pedals, but I always encourage you to test everything you can, even though I know it's kind of hard. Another strong contender here is the Simtrax Pro Pedal GT pedal set that I would probably rate even higher in terms of build quality compared to these. And also compared to the Heusingervelds, but I will cover these pedals in a future review actually, so make sure to subscribe to the channel to not miss that one. So should you just go and order these pedals to try out? Probably, but yeah, there's a big but. Big but, no, not what you're thinking now. At the point of making this video, it is actually super hard to buy these pedals. There's a waiting list of several months, so buying these pedals definitely requires some patience. Is it worth the wait? Absolutely. Can you get another great pedal set without any weight? Yeah, absolutely as well. I'm pretty sure VRS will ramp up the production in the near future if the electronics components bottleneck will ever end to meet the demand. I mean, in the end, every missed sale is lost money and companies kind of like earning money, so yeah. Alright, time for the verdict. VRS is doing a very impressive entry in the simracing hardware market. I love their DFP Pro wheelbase, and I also love the DFP Pro pedals, to be honest. By the way, who actually thought it's a great idea to give both products the same name? But it's kind of confusing, but yeah, whatever. I guess the money saved from marketing probably is directly affecting the sale price, and I have very little things to criticize in these pedal set. Exchanging the spring can be kind of tough, but is absolutely recommended. The software UI feels a bit dated, but let's be honest, if we are talking about hurting fingers and the UI of the pedal software as the points to criticize, you probably already get it. These are insanely nice pedals and I can absolutely recommend them. They might not work for you, everybody has different preference in gear. They definitely work excellently for me and a lot of my friends. I honestly can't wait to test the wheel that VRS is releasing soon, because as you probably can tell, I really like their gear. So since we introduced the gear scoring system in the last review, I want to rate this pedal set as well, and my overall score for it would be a super strong 9.5 out of 10. Honestly, all the stuff that I dislike is kinda negligible, and you get the super good performance for a super fair price. The rating system, by the way, is independent of the price of the gear, since somebody asked. Maybe I will add some price performance rating in the future as well. I mean, this would definitely be a 10 in this case, beating a lot of pedal sets that I have tested, which are way more expensive. So yeah, I think that's it for this review. I hope you liked it. If you did, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. And if you didn't, please let me know in the comments down below what you didn't like, so I can improve in future videos. If you maybe did not know, I also stream on Twitch, typically on Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday, so maybe come by and say hi, would be cool. Anyways, thanks for watching and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.